Mama, when I grow up, I'll buy you a house. Rain will never touch you again.
Still nothing to see.
My son.
What did you call me?
Forget what you heard, old woman. Truth does not stay buried forever.
I stayed because I loved you, Ebuka, not because of your company.
You loved me?
You tested my love like an interview.
I was afraid.
No, Ebuka, you lied.
Comfort, what are you doing?
Look at me properly, Ebuka.
Mama?
Before you marry her, listen to this.
Ebuka, turn it off!
Still believe, say you no go lie.
The first time Chioma entered her son's mansion dressed as a maid, he walked straight past her. He did not recognize the woman whose hand had once washed strangers' clothes until her fingers bled just so he could eat. He did not recognize the eyes that had watched over him through fever, hunger, and countless nights beneath a leaking zinc roof. He did not even look at her twice. "Good morning, sir," Chioma said, lowering her head. Ebuka nodded distractedly, with his phone pressed against his ear. "Yes, move the London meeting to Thursday, and tell Kelechi I need the acquisition documents before noon." The front door closed behind him. Chioma remained beside the staircase, clutching the handle of her mop. For one painful moment, she wanted to tear off the faded scarf covering her hair and call after him. "Ebuka, my son, look at me." But she stopped herself. She had not entered his house to be seen. She had entered it to discover what everyone else was hiding. And before the week was over, Chioma would overhear a conversation that could destroy everything her son had spent his entire life building. 30 years earlier, Chioma had stood outside her father's house with a torn raffia bag at her feet. She was 17 years old, and she was 4 months pregnant. Her mother stood inside the doorway, crying silently. But her father's face showed no pity. "You have brought shame into this family. Leave before the neighbors wake up." "Papa, please." Chioma dropped to her knees. "I have nowhere to go." "You should have remembered that before opening your legs." The words struck her harder than the slap he had given her earlier. Chioma looked toward her mother. "Mama." Her mother took one frightened step forward, but her father blocked the doorway. "If you follow her, don't come back." Her mother froze, and Chioma understood. Slowly, she stood up. She picked up her bag, then she walked away before sunrise. The young man responsible for her pregnancy had already disappeared. When Chioma went to the small room where he lived, the landlord told her that he had traveled. There was no address, no message, and no promise to return. For weeks, Chioma slept wherever darkness found her, sometimes beneath market tables, sometimes inside motor parks after the last buses had departed. She carried goods for traders, she washed plates in roadside restaurants, and she begged women to allow her to sleep on their kitchen floors. But when her pregnancy became too heavy, even those small jobs disappeared. One rainy night, she sat beneath a leaking zinc roof in an unfinished building. She held her stomach while thunder shook the sky. Then her unborn child kicked. Chioma covered her belly with both hands. "I don't know how I will do it, but you will not suffer like me." The baby kicked again, and for the first time in weeks, Chioma smiled. "You will eat," she whispered. "You will go to school. You will become somebody. Even if I have to bend until my back breaks, you will stand upright." That promise became her religion. When Ebuka was born, Chioma sold roasted corn beside a busy road with him tied to her back. As he grew older, she washed clothes for wealthy families. She arrived before sunrise and returned after dark. Her hands were always cracked from detergent. Some days she claimed she had eaten so that Ebuka could finish the only plate of food in their room. But eventually, he noticed. One evening when he was 9 years old, Ebuka divided his food into 2 equal portions. "I'm not hungry," Chioma said. Ebuka pushed one portion toward her. "You said that yesterday." "I ate at Madam Agnes's house." "You are lying." Chioma stared. The boy's eyes filled with tears. "You always lie when there is not enough food." She sat beside him. "Ebuka, when you grow up, you will never wash anybody's clothes again." Chioma smiled and touched his cheek. "You will grow up and become a good man. That is all I want." "No," he insisted. "I will become rich, very rich. Then I will buy you a house with a roof that does not leak." Ebuka's promise did not disappear as childhood promises often did. Instead, it followed him everywhere. When other children played football after school, Ebuka would often sit behind the small roadside stall where his mother sold roasted corn. He would place his exercise book on an overturned crate and complete his assignments beneath the weak light of a kerosene lantern. Sometimes customers would laugh at him. "Small boy, why are you always reading?" Ebuka would look up and answer seriously, "I am preparing to become rich." The customers would laugh even harder, but Chioma never laughed. She would turn the corn over the fire and watch him with pride. One evening, a customer left behind an old damaged calculator. The screen was cracked and several buttons no longer worked. Ebuka picked it up. "Mommy, can I keep this?" "What will you do with a broken calculator?" "I will repair it." "You know how to repair calculators?" "No." "Then how will you repair it?" "I will learn." For 3 days, Ebuka opened the calculator, studied its small parts, and attempted to understand how it worked. He failed several times. On the 4th day, the screen lit up. Only 3 numbers appeared, but to Ebuka, it felt like a miracle. Chioma held the calculator and smiled. "You repaired it." "Not completely, but it is working. Only some of it." Chioma handed it back to him. Sometimes, life does not give you everything you need. You start with the part that still works. Ebuka remembered those words many years later when he began building his first company. But there were moments when his dreams almost died before they had the chance to grow. When Ebuka was 14, his school announced that every student would need to pay an exam fee before the end of the week. The amount was more money than Chioma had made in 2 months. Ebuka returned home with the letter folded inside his pocket. He did not show it to her. Instead, he began missing school. On the 3rd morning, Chioma noticed that he hadn't put on his uniform. "Why are you still here?" "There is no lesson today." "There was no lesson yesterday either." "The teachers are having meetings." Chioma studied his face. Ebuka looked away. "Bring your school bag." "Mommy, bring it." She opened the bag and found the exam letter. Her eyes moved over the amount. Then she looked at her son. "Why did you hide this?" "You cannot afford it." "That is not your decision. You already owe Madam Agnes." "I will find a way." "How?" Chioma remained silent. Ebuka sat beside her. "I can repeat the class next year." "You will not repeat anything." "Mommy, it is only 1 year." 1 year becomes 2. 2 becomes 5. And before you know it, poverty has convinced you to stop dreaming. That evening, Chioma walked to Madam Agnes's house. She asked for additional washing work. Madam Agnes brought out curtains, bed sheets, rugs, and several baskets filled with clothing. "You want all of it?" Chioma asked. "You said you needed money." "I do." "Then wash everything before Friday." Chioma worked for 2 days without proper sleep. By Friday evening, her hands were swollen. Small cuts covered her fingers. When she finally collected the money, she walked directly to Ebuka's school. She arrived just as the bursar was preparing to leave. "Please," Chioma said breathlessly, "my son must write that exam." Years later, when Ebuka graduated from university at the top of his class, he searched the crowd until he found his mother. Chioma was wearing a borrowed wrapper and shoes that pinched her toes, but she was smiling as though she owned the entire university. Ebuka walked past the lecturers, past the photographers, and straight toward her. He removed his graduation cap and placed it on her head. "This belongs to you." Chioma laughed. "People are watching. Let them watch." He knelt in front of her. "You paid for this with your hands." Chioma touched his face. "No, my son. You paid for it with your mind." They both knew the truth. They had built his future together. At 23, Ebuka began building software from a second-hand laptop. At 25, he created a digital payment platform that attracted investors, and by 30, his company operated across several African countries. His name appeared in business magazines. Politicians requested meetings with him. Investors flew from London, Dubai, and New York just to hear him speak. But Ebuka's proudest achievement was not the company. It was the day he placed a set of house keys in his mother's hand. Chioma stared at the white mansion, surrounded by hibiscus flowers. "What is this?" she asked. "Your house." She laughed because she thought he was joking, but Ebuka led her through the gate. There were marble floors, tall windows, and a kitchen larger than the room where they had once lived. Chioma stood under the chandelier and began to cry. Ebuka wrapped his arms around her. "You said you only wanted me to become a good man," he whispered, "but I wanted to give you more." "You already gave me more," she said. She held his face between her palms. "You survived." Success brought Ebuka comfort, but it also brought people.
Women laughed too loudly at his jokes. Relatives who had ignored him during his childhood suddenly remembered that they shared blood. Businessmen praised his intelligence while secretly calculating how much access friendship with him could provide. Chioma watched quietly. Poverty had taught her one valuable lesson. People revealed themselves when they believed you had nothing to offer them. Then Stella arrived. She was elegant, educated, and impossibly composed. She was the daughter of a retired diplomat. She had attended schools abroad and moved through elite social circles with practiced grace. She met Ebuka at a charity dinner. Within weeks, she had become a regular presence in his life. And within 8 months, Ebuka proposed. At first, Stella was careful. She brought Chioma expensive gifts, perfume, jewelry, imported fabrics. She insisted on calling her mommy in front of Ebuka. But Chioma noticed that Stella never asked what she actually liked. The gifts were not chosen to please Chioma. They were selected to impress Ebuka. One afternoon, Stella visited Chioma's home with a designer handbag. "Mommy, I saw this and immediately thought of you." Chioma opened the box. The bag was beautiful, but it was bright yellow and covered in large silver decorations. Chioma preferred simple brown and black handbags. "It is lovely," she said politely. Stella smiled. "I knew you would love it." Ebuka entered the room. "That bag is not mommy's style." Stella's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "She does not like bright colors." Chioma looked at her son. "You remember? You once returned a green handbag because you said it shouted more loudly than the person carrying it." Chioma laughed. Stella did not. Later, while Ebuka answered a phone call outside, Stella sat beside Chioma. "You and Ebuka are very close." "He is my only child." "Of course." Stella adjusted her dress. "But after marriage, setting boundaries will be important." Chioma looked at her. "What kind of boundaries?" "Nothing serious. I only mean that a man should be allowed to build his own family without interference." Chioma smiled gently. "That is true. Good. But a strong marriage does not require a man to abandon the people who loved him before it began." Stella crossed one leg over the other. "I would never ask him to abandon you." "I am happy to hear that." Although, Stella continued, a wife should naturally become her husband's first priority. A wife should be important. Not important, first. Chioma studied her. "And when children come, that is different. What if his mother becomes sick? That is also different. So perhaps love is not a competition." Stella's lips tightened. Before she could respond, Ebuka returned. Immediately, Stella smiled. Mommy was just giving me wonderful marriage advice. Chioma looked at her. Yes, we were discussing priorities. From that day, Chioma watched Stella more carefully, and Stella began watching Chioma too. Their smiles remained polite, but beneath the politeness, a quiet battle had already begun. The engagement announcement appeared in 3 national newspapers. At the celebration, Stella entered the room wearing a silver gown and a diamond ring large enough to capture every camera flash. She embraced Chioma warmly. Mommy, I am so happy to finally become part of this family. Chioma smiled. We thank God. I want you to know that I don't only love Ebuka, I love everything that made him who he is. That is good to hear. Stella squeezed her hand. You raised an extraordinary man. Yes, Chioma replied. But marriage is not about marrying an extraordinary man. It is about loving him on the days when he feels ordinary. For a fraction of a second, Stella's smile changed. Then it returned. Of course, Mommy. Later that evening, Chioma stood near the balcony and watched Stella speaking with 2 friends. Ebuka approached from behind her. You've been studying her all night. Chioma turned. Have I? Ebuka, Mommy, I know that face. What face? The one you used to make when our landlord said he would repair the roof. Chioma laughed softly. Ebuka looked towards Stella. You don't like her. I did not say that. You didn't have to. Chioma adjusted the edge of her wrapper. Do you love her? Yes. Does she bring you peace? Ebuka hesitated. She makes me happy. That was not my question. He sighed. Mommy, please don't do this. I am only asking. And I am telling you that Stella is the woman I want to marry. Chioma saw defensiveness hardening his expression, so she immediately stepped back. Then I will respect your decision. Ebuka kissed her forehead. Thank you. But Chioma's concern did not disappear. She had seen something in Stella's eyes. It was not hatred. It was not even cruelty. It was calculation. The same look she once saw in the eyes of the man who abandoned her. The look of someone measuring what they could gain before deciding how long they would stay. Yet, Chioma had no proof, and accusing Stella without evidence would only push Ebuka closer to her. So Chioma decided to become someone Stella would never consider important enough to deceive. Chioma's old friend, Mrs. Onwosu, ran a domestic staffing agency. When Chioma explained her plan, the woman stared at her as though she had lost her mind. You want to work as a maid in your own son's house? Temporarily. Chioma, there are cameras everywhere. What if he recognizes you? He leaves the house before 7 and returns late. The wedding and business merger are occupying his mind. And your voice? I will speak as little as possible. Mrs. Onwosu folded her arms. This is dangerous. So is allowing him to marry the wrong woman. What happens when he discovers what you did? He may become angry. He will become furious. Chioma looked down. I can survive his anger, but I don't know if I can survive watching him lose everything because I was afraid to act. Mrs. Onwosu finally agreed. Chioma cut her hair short and covered it with a faded scarf. She wore plain dresses, she flattened her posture, and she stopped applying the creams and perfumes Stella associated with Ebuka's wealthy mother. Mrs. Onwosu introduced her to the household manager as Comfort, a widow from a distant village who desperately needed work. The transformation frightened Chioma because of how easily wealth disappeared from a person's appearance. Remove the jewelry, change the clothes, lower the eyes, and suddenly the same woman who had been served champagne at charity galas became invisible. On her first morning, Ebuka walked past her without a caution, but Stella noticed her immediately. You, Chioma turned. Yes, madam. Come here. Chioma approached.
Stella looked her over with open dissatisfaction. You are the new maid? Yes, madam. You look old. I can walk. That is what all of you say until knees start hurting. I will do my best. Stella pointed toward the staircase. The guest rooms need cleaning, and use the expensive polish on the wooden furniture not the cheap one. If you damage anything in this house, your salary will not be enough to replace it. Yes, madam. As Chioma walked away, Stella called after her. And comfort. Chioma turned. Do not touch anything that does not concern you. Chioma lowered her head. Yes, madam. By the end of the first week, Chioma understood why Stella had warned her. There was much in the house that Stella did not want anyone to see. In Ebuka's presence, Stella was gentle. She touched his arm while speaking. She asked whether he had eaten. She praised the household staff. But the moment his car left the compound, her voice changed. One afternoon, a young maid named Rita served her orange juice. Stella took one sip and frowned. This is too cold. Rita blinked. Madam, I said the juice is too cold. I'm sorry, I thought. The glass flew from Stella's hand. It struck the wall beside Rita and shattered. Orange juice splashed across the floor and the front of Rita's uniform. Chioma froze in the doorway. Stella stood up. Did I ask you to think? No, madam. Then stop using a brain you clearly do not possess. Rita bent down to collect the broken glass. Her hands were trembling. Leave it, Chioma said quietly. I will clean it. Stella turned toward her. Did I give you permission to speak? No, madam. Then keep your mouth shut. Chioma lowered her gaze. Yes, madam. Stella walked away. Rita's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Mama Comfort. Chioma took the broken glass from her. Go and wash your uniform. She will deduct it from my salary. How much? 5,000 naira. For cold juice? Rita wiped her face. My son is sick. I already asked for an advance, but Madam said poor people always use children as excuses. Chioma's jaw tightened. Go and change. That afternoon, Kelechi arrived with documents. She was 28 years old. She was simply dressed and she was always composed. Unlike Stella's friends, Kelechi never entered the house as though the staff were part of the furniture. Good afternoon, Mama Comfort. Chioma looked up. You remember my name? Kelechi smiled. You told me yesterday. Most people in Ebuka's circle met dozens of workers and forgot them immediately. But Kelechi remembered after one conversation. Then, she noticed Rita's swollen eyes. What happened? Nothing, Ma. Kelechi glanced toward the stain on Rita's uniform and the shards in the waste bin. She did not question her in front of everyone. Instead, she asked quietly, How is your son? Rita's lips trembled. Still sick. Have you taken him to the clinic? I don't have enough money. Kelechi opened her handbag and handed Rita some notes. Take him after work. Rita stared at the money. Ma, I cannot collect this. You can repay me when your son becomes a doctor. Despite her tears, Rita laughed. Thank you, Ma. Kelechi placed a finger over her lips. Don't announce it. Stella might think I am encouraging you to neglect your duties. Then she walked toward Ebuka's study. Chioma watched her go. That was the first time she truly noticed Kelechi, not as Ebuka's secretary, but as a woman. Kelechi had not always planned to become a secretary. When she was younger, she drew houses, not ordinary houses. She designed wide windows that allowed sunlight into every room, courtyards filled with flowers, safe bedrooms for children, kitchens where families could sit together and talk. Her teachers praised her drawings and encouraged her to study architecture. Then her father died. Kelechi was 19. Her mother's small food business could not support 4 children. Kelechi abandoned university and accepted the first office job she could find. She told herself it would be temporary, but temporary sacrifices have a way of becoming permanent when an entire family depends on them. By the time she began working for Ebuka, she had stopped drawing completely. Ebuka first noticed her during a difficult board meeting. Several senior executives were arguing over why a new product had failed. everyone blamed someone else. Kelechi sat quietly at the end of the conference table taking notes. Ebuka finally turned to her. "You have been listening for 2 hours." "Yes, sir." "Who do you think is responsible?" The room went silent. Kelechi looked around at the senior executives. "Sir, I don't think responsibility belongs to one person." "Explain." "The marketing department promised features that the technical department had not completed. The technical department did not explain the delays clearly, and management launched the product because everyone was afraid to tell you it was not ready." Several people shifted uncomfortably. Ebuka leaned back. "You were afraid to tell me?" "Yes, sir." "Then why did you?" "Because you asked." Ebuka stared at her. Then he smiled. The following week, he promoted her. Over the years, Kelechi became one of the few people in the company who could disagree with Ebuka without humiliating him. One evening after a long meeting, Ebuka found her standing in front of the office window. She was sketching something on the back of an old document. "What is that?" Kelechi quickly covered it. "Nothing." "You look guilty." "I was wasting company paper." Ebuka held out his hand. "Let me see." She reluctantly gave him the drawing. It was a modern community center with open classrooms and a large garden. "You drew this?" "Yes." "You studied architecture?" "For 1 year." "Why did you stop?" Kelechi took the drawing back. "Life." "That is not an answer." "It is the only one I have." Ebuka wanted to ask more, but Stella called at that moment complaining that he was late for dinner. The conversation ended. Still, Ebuka kept thinking about the drawing. He began noticing that Kelechi always paused whenever they drove past beautiful buildings. He noticed the way her eyes followed construction sites. He noticed many things, but because he was already engaged, he forced himself not to understand what they might mean. Kelechi did the same. Their relationship remained respectful, professional, carefully controlled. Yet beneath the surface, something had begun growing long before either of them was prepared to name it. One evening, Chioma remained in the kitchen after the other workers had eaten. Stella had hosted several friends and ordered the staff to serve them continuously. By the time the guests left, there was little food remaining. Chioma sat at the servants' table with only a cup of water. Then Kelechi entered carrying a laptop bag. "Mama Comfort, have you eaten?" "Yes." Kelechi looked at the empty table. "What did you eat?" Chioma smiled faintly. "Water." "That is not food." "I am not very hungry." Kelechi opened the refrigerator. She brought out a plate she had set aside earlier and placed it in front of Chioma. "Please eat." "What about you?" "We can share." Kelechi sat beside her. Chioma studied her. "You are not afraid someone will see you eating with a maid?" Kelechi looked confused. "Why should I be?" "Some people believe status is contagious. They think sitting beside someone poor may reduce their importance." Kelechi smiled. "My mother sold food beside a motor park when I was young. If sharing a table with hard-working women could reduce my importance, I would have disappeared years ago." Chioma's expression changed. "Your mother? She raised 4 of us after my father died. That must have been difficult." It was. She used to pretend she had eaten when there wasn't enough food. Chioma went still. Kelechi continued. "I did not understand until I became older. Mothers think their children don't notice their sacrifices." "We notice," Chioma whispered. "We only hope the pain does not become a burden." Kelechi looked at her closely. For 1 second, Chioma feared she had revealed too much. Then Kelechi pushed the larger portion of food toward her. "Eat, Mama Comfort." From the hallway, Stella watched her. Neither woman saw her. But the following morning, Kelechi's access card to the mansion stopped working. "Your card must be damaged," Ebuka said when Kelechi called him from the gate. Stella sat beside him in the dining room, stirring her tea. "These things happen," she said. Kelechi entered after the security guard allowed her inside. "I used it yesterday." Stella smiled. "Then perhaps you should be more careful with company property." Kelechi ignored the insult and handed Ebuka the files. "The board approved the revised terms. They need your signature." Ebuka opened the folder. "Excellent work." Stella's hand stopped moving. "You've been spending a lot of time with my fiancé lately." Kelechi looked at her. "I work for him. At strange hours. The merger requires it. You could send documents through a driver. Kelechi handles confidential information. I trust her." Stella smiled, but Chioma saw the anger beneath it. "Of course, you do." After Ebuka left the room, Stella followed Kelechi toward the door. "Do not become too comfortable in this house." Kelechi turned. "I beg your pardon? You heard me. I am here to work. And you will remember your position." Kelechi held her gaze. "My position is executive secretary to the managing director. Unless that has changed, I will continue doing my job." Stella stepped closer. "You think because his mother likes you?" "His mother?" Stella stopped. Chioma, who was polishing a table nearby, kept her eyes down. Kelechi waited, but Stella recovered quickly. "I mean, because his staff like you, you think you belong here. I have never claimed to belong anywhere I was not invited." "Good." Kelechi glanced at Chioma. "Good afternoon, Mama Comfort." "Good afternoon, my daughter." Stella waited until Kelechi left. Then she approached Chioma. "What have you been telling her?" "Nothing, madam." "You were eating together yesterday. She gave me food." "And that makes you friends?" "No, madam." Stella's eyes narrowed. "Remember what I told you. Do not touch what does not concern you." This time, Chioma understood that Stella was no longer referring to furniture. A few days later, an expensive bracelet disappeared after one of Stella's gatherings. Stella searched the sitting room dramatically. "My bracelet is gone." Rita and the other staff members stood in a frightened line. Chioma watched from the corner. "When did you last see it?" the household manager asked. "Before my guests arrived. Perhaps one of your friends picked it up by mistake." Stella's eyes moved toward Kelechi, who had arrived to deliver documents. "My friends do not steal." Kelechi remained calm. "What are you suggesting?" Stella folded her arms. "Everyone who entered this room should be searched." Ebuka was not home. The household manager looked uncomfortable. "Madam, perhaps we should wait for Sir. This is my house too. It will become mine officially after the wedding." Stella pointed toward the staff. "Search them." One by one, the workers emptied their pockets and bags. Nothing was found. Then Stella turned to Kelechi. "Your bag." Kelechi's expression hardened. "No." Stella smiled. "Why not?" "Because I am not a thief." That is what thieves usually say. Chioma stepped forward. "Madam, perhaps the bracelet fell inside your room." Stella glared at her. "Did I ask for your opinion?" "No, madam." "Then be quiet." Kelechi opened her handbag herself. "Search it." Stella reached inside. She removed a small jewelry pouch. The room became silent. Stella opened it. Her diamond bracelet lay inside. Rita gasped.
Kelechi stared at it. That is not mine. Stella smiled coldly. Obviously. I did not put it there. Of course not. Kelechi looked at everyone in the room. I have never touched that bracelet. Stella picked up her phone. I should call the police. Before she could make the call, Ebuka entered. What is happening? Stella rushed toward him. My bracelet was found inside Kelechi's bag. Ebuka looked at Kelechi. She stood completely still. I did not take it. Stella gave a short laugh. It appeared there by magic? Ebuka held out his hand. Show me the bracelet. Stella gave it to him. Ebuka examined the clasp. Then he looked at her wrist. You wore this bracelet to lunch. Yes. You sent me a photograph. Stella paused. So? The photograph was taken at 2:14. He turned toward Kelechi. What time did you arrive? 3:25. Ebuka looked at the security camera near the entrance. And your bag has been in the study since you arrived? Yes. The household manager nodded. She placed it immediately. Ebuka turned to the security officer. Check every camera between 2 o'clock and now. Stella's confidence weakened. There is no need to make this into a big issue. You are about to call the police. I was angry. Then we should find out what happened. 20 minutes later, the security officer returned. The camera outside the study showed Stella entering the room while Kelechi was in the kitchen. She remained inside for almost a minute. Stella's face changed. Ebuka looked at her. What were you doing in my study? I was looking for you. I was at the office. I forgot. Kelechi closed her handbag. I think I should leave. Ebuka stopped her. No. He faced Stella. Apologize. Ebuka, apologize to her. Stella's eyes filled with fury.
I am sorry. Kelechi held her gaze. No, you are not. She picked up her bag and left. That evening, Ebuka confronted Stella privately. You planted the bracelet. You cannot prove that. I don't want to believe it. Then don't. Why do you hate Kelechi? I don't hate her. You tried to have her arrested. Stella walked towards the window. She does not respect boundaries. She works for me. She looks at you. Ebuka went silent. Stella turned. You have noticed it too. She has never behaved improperly. Women do not need to behave improperly to want something. Ebuka's expression became troubled. Is that what this is about? You defend her more quickly than you defend me, because she has done nothing wrong. Stella's eyes filled with tears. You are supposed to be marrying me. Ebuka softened. But in the hallway, Chioma had heard everything. Stella's jealousy was no longer simply cruel, it was becoming dangerous. As the traditional wedding approached, Stella became increasingly controlling. She changed the guest list without consulting Ebuka. She removed several of Chioma's old friends because she claimed they would not fit the event image. When Chioma questioned her, Stella smiled sweetly. Mommy, there will be photographers from international magazines. My friends are not criminals. I did not say they were. You said they do not fit. Stella sighed. I only want everything to look perfect. Chioma looked at the long list of politicians, celebrities, and business leaders. Marriage is not made perfect by the people watching it. Stella placed the list on the table. With respect, Mommy, this wedding is bigger than an ordinary family event. No wedding is bigger than the marriage that follows it. Stella's smile disappeared. You always have something negative to say. I have not said anything negative. You make me feel as if I am being interviewed every time we speak. Perhaps you feel that way because you are always performing. Stella stared at her. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Then Ebuka entered. Stella immediately began crying. What happened? I don't think your mother wants this wedding. Chioma remained calm. That is not what I said. Stella covered her face. She thinks I am fake. Ebuka looked at his mother. Mommy, I told her that marriage matters more than appearance. That is all. Stella shook her head. She has never trusted me. Ebuka rubbed his forehead. Mommy, please. Chioma felt the familiar pain of being dismissed, but she also saw how expertly Stella had turned the conversation. Very well, Chioma said. I will not interfere with the wedding plans. She left the room. Later that night, Ebuka came to her house. Chioma was sitting in the garden. He sat beside her. You are angry with me? No. You always say no when the answer is yes. Chioma smiled faintly. You know me too well. I am under pressure. I know. Stella believes you dislike her. I do not know her well enough to dislike her. That sounds worse. Chioma looked at him. Ebuka, why are you rushing? We have already set a date. That was not my question. He looked away. You speak about the wedding, you speak about the house, you speak about the guests. But when I ask how you feel about the marriage, you become defensive. I love her. Then why do you look tired every time she enters the room? Ebuka's jaw tightened. Mummy, does she know what frightens you? He did not answer. Does she know what you wanted before the company? Silence. Does she know the name of your first teacher? That is not important. Does she know you still cannot sleep during heavy rain because you remember our old roof? Ebuka looked sharply. You promised not to tell anyone that. I have not. Chioma touched his hand. My son, marriage is not choosing someone who looks good beside you when everyone is watching. It is choosing the person you can be weak beside when no one is there. Ebuka stood. I cannot keep questioning everything because you are afraid. Chioma's hand fell. I am not afraid for myself. I know. That's the problem. He walked away. Chioma watched his car leave. She wondered whether protecting her son would eventually cost her their closeness. Then she remembered Stella's eyes. She decided the cost was worth paying. The first real evidence came 2 weeks before the traditional wedding. Chioma was cleaning the sitting room when she found a second phone beneath a sofa cushion. The device had no password. Then a message appeared on the screen. Everything must be completed before the ceremony. Once he signs, the shares become accessible. Chioma's heart began to pound. But before she could read further, footsteps approached. She quickly returned the phone beneath the cushion and began wiping the table. Stella entered. Have you seen a phone? No, madam. Stella searched the sofa frantically. When she found it, relief flashed across her face. Then she turned to Chioma. You did not touch this? No, madam. Look at me. Chioma raised her eyes. Stella studied. You are either very obedient or very stupid. Perhaps both, madam. Stella laughed and left. That evening, Chioma telephoned Mrs. Nwosu. I need a small recording device. Chioma, what have you found? Not enough. And when will it be enough? When I can place the truth in my son's hand and no one can call it a mother's jealousy. The recording device arrived the following morning. Chioma kept it hidden inside the pocket of her uniform. For 3 days, she heard nothing useful. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday evening, Stella received a call near the pantry. Chioma was polishing cutlery. Stella lowered her voice. No, he has not signed. Chioma stopped moving. The lawyer said the joint ownership document must be signed before the ceremony. Once that is done, the shares become marital property. There was a pause. I know he reads everything. That is why I need the substance. Chioma's hand tightened around the spoon. No, not kill him. Are you stupid? Just enough to make him relaxed and confused. Chioma's blood turned cold. Stella laughed softly. After the wedding, I will handle him. He thinks his mother suffered to build him into some kind of saint. Let him continue believing that nonsense. Chioma pressed one hand against the pocket containing the recorder. I have spent too many years pretending to enjoy his boring stories to walk away with nothing. Then footsteps sounded. Chioma bent over the cutlery. Stella entered the pantry. She looked directly at Chioma. How long have you been here? All evening, madam. Stella moved closer. What did you hear? My phone call? I was thinking about my knees. They have been paining me. Stella stared at her. Then she slapped her. The impact sent her against the cabinet. You old fool. Chioma touched her cheek. Stella leaned forward. If you ever repeat anything you hear in this house, nobody will find your body. Then she walked out. Chioma remained still until the sound of Stella's heels disappeared. Slowly, she removed the recorder. Her hands were shaking. And for the first time since entering the mansion, Chioma cried. Not because of the slap, but because her son had planned to marry a woman capable of speaking about his life as though it were a business transaction. The following morning, comfort disappeared, and Chioma asked to see her son. Ebuka entered his study irritated.
His mother had sent an urgent message requesting a private meeting, but she had not explained why. Mommy?
She said nothing. His eyes moved over the uniform, the worn shoes, and the bruise forming on her cheek. What is this? Sit down. What are you wearing? Please, sit. Mommy, what is going on? I have been working in this house for almost 1 month. Ebuka laughed once in disbelief. No, I was Comfort. His face emptied. The new maid? Yes. No. I needed to see Stella when she believed no one important was watching. Ebuka stepped back. You deceived me. I protected you. You entered my house pretending to be a servant. I had no other way. You could have spoken to me. Would you have listened? Yes. You did not listen when I asked whether she brought you peace. Because you had no evidence. I do now. Chioma reloaded the recorder and placed it on the desk. Before pressing play, she looked at him. What you hear will hurt you. Ebuka's anger weakened. What happened to your face? Listen first. The recording began. Stella's voice filled the room. Shares, substance, confusion, marriage, money. Ebuka stood completely still. When the recording ended, silence settled over the study. Chioma moved toward him, but he raised his hand. Please. She stopped. Ebuka stared at the recorder. That could be misunderstood. Ebuka, she may have been talking about something else. My son. She loves me. Chioma's heart broke at the desperation in his voice. Someone who loves you does not plan how to weaken you. Ebuka sat down heavily. You cleaned my floors. That is not what matters. You ate in the servants' quarters. I have eaten in worse places. In my house, I chose to do it. Ebuka covered his face. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, he looked up. Did she hit you? Chioma touched her cheek. She was afraid I heard the conversation. Something changed in Ebuka's eyes. The pain became cold. Call Kelechi, he said. Why? I need to know exactly what Stella has tried to access. Kelechi arrived within an hour. When she entered the study and saw Chioma dressed as Comfort, she stopped so suddenly that her files slipped from her hands. Mama Comfort? Chioma removed the scarf. Kelechi stared. Mrs. Okafor. Chioma gave a tired smile. Both. Kelechi looked at Ebuka. I don't understand. You will, he said. But first, check every document Stella has requested from the legal department. They worked through the night. Kelechi discovered that Stella had repeatedly asked questions about Ebuka's private company shares, his medical authorizations, and post-marriage asset structures. Stella had also contacted a junior employee in the legal department without Ebuka's knowledge. By morning, there was enough evidence to confirm Chioma's recording. Ebuka called Stella and asked her to meet him in the main sitting room. She arrived wearing white. My love, you sounded serious. Ebuka stood near the window. Chioma sat quietly in an armchair. This time, she was dressed in one of her elegant bubus. Stella froze. Her eyes moved from Chioma to Ebuka. What is she doing here? Sit down, Ebuka said, forcing a smile. Mommy, you disappeared. We were worried. Chioma said nothing. Ebuka placed the recorder on the table. Stella's face changed. He pressed play. As her voice filled the room, the color drained from her face. When the recording ended, Stella stood up quickly. This is not what it sounds like. What does it sound like? Ebuka asked. Someone edited it. Kelechi confirmed your attempt to access my company documents. Kelechi? Stella turned toward her. You have always wanted him. Kelechi remained calm. This is not about me. You jealous little secretary. Ebuka stepped forward. Do not speak to her that way. Stella looked back at him. Ebuka, please, I can explain.
Explain the substance. It was a joke. Explain the shares. My lawyer suggested we protect our future. Explain calling my life boring. I was angry. Explain hitting my mother. Stella's mouth opened, but no words came. Ebuka's voice dropped. You threatened her in my house. I did not know she was your mother. The room went silent. Stella realized too late what she had said. Chioma leaned forward. That is the entire point. Stella turned to Ebuka. I was under pressure. The wedding, the media, your mother constantly judging me. My mother treated you with respect. She never accepted me. She saw you. Ebuka removed the engagement ring box from a drawer and placed it on the table. Leave the ring and leave my house. Stella began to cry. What will people say? Ebuka looked at her in disbelief. Even now, her greatest fear was public embarrassment. Let them say whatever they want. You will regret humiliating me. I would rather be humiliated in every newspaper in this country than marry someone who only valued me when she believed I was useful. Stella removed the ring and threw it on the table. You think that secretary will love you better? Ebuka's eyes moved briefly toward Kelechi. Kelechi looked away. Security escorted Stella from the mansion. When the gate closed behind her car, Ebuka remained beside the window. Chioma approached him. I am sorry. He did not turn around. I almost married her, but you didn't. What if you had not done this? Chioma touched his shoulder. That is why I did. Ebuka turned toward her with tears in his eyes. I walked past you every day. You were busy. I did not see you. You were not supposed to. He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time since childhood, Ebuka cried against his mother's shoulder. Kelechi quietly left the room, but as she closed the door, Chioma saw tears in her eyes too. The public reaction was merciless. Before the family could release a statement, Stella's friends began spreading their own version of events. According to them, Chioma had always hated Stella. They claimed the engagement ended because Chioma could not tolerate another woman becoming important in her son's life. Several gossip blogs repeated the accusation. One headline read, Billionaire's mother destroys son's wedding out of jealousy. Another claimed that Kelechi had secretly seduced Ebuka and worked with Chioma to remove Stella. Kelechi read the story in her apartment. Her hands began to shake. Her younger sister, Amaka, sat beside her. This is rubbish. People will believe it. People believe anything for 2 days. This could destroy my career. Amaka took the phone from her. Then your employer should defend you. Kelechi looked away. He is dealing with his own problems. You always defend him. I am not defending him. You love him. Kelechi stood. Please don't start. You have loved that man for years. He was engaged. He is not anymore. That does not make him available. Amaka studied her. You mean it does not make you brave? Kelechi walked toward the window. I do not want him because another woman failed. I do not want to become the reward his mother gives him from escaping Stella. Then make sure he chooses you himself. Kelechi closed her eyes. Across the city, Ebuka was facing a different crisis. Board members feared that the scandal would damage the company. One director advised him to issue a statement blaming Stella completely. Another suggested publicly distancing himself from his mother's disguise. You need to make it clear that you did not approve of the deception, the director said. Ebuka looked at him. My mother saved this company. She also entered your home under a false identity. Because I would not listen. That detail does not need to be public. What are you asking me to do? Present yourself as another victim. Ebuka leaned back. And allow the public to attack her? This is business. No. Ebuka, investors dislike instability. My mother carried me on her back while selling roasted corn. She washed strangers' clothes so I could write examinations. If this company requires me to pretend I am ashamed of her, then the company is not worth protecting. The director sighed. You are being emotional. Yes, for once I am. Ebuka called a press conference. He stood in front of the cameras alone. My engagement ended because I discovered serious dishonesty and attempted financial manipulation. I will not discuss private evidence, but I will correct one lie. My mother did not destroy my relationship. She protected me when I was too blinded by my own feelings to protect myself. He paused.
And my executive secretary, Miss Kelechi Nnamani, had no romantic involvement with me. She acted professionally and assisted in reviewing company documents after suspicious activity was discovered. Any accusation against her is false. Kelechi watched the press conference from home. When Ebuka defended her, her eyes filled with tears. Amaka nudged her. He chose to protect your name. He was correcting a lie. He could have remained silent. Kelechi said nothing. But later that night, she sent him a message. Thank you. Ebuka stared at the two words for a long time. Then he replied, You deserved the truth. That simple exchange became the beginning of a new closeness. Not romance yet, but trust. Stella was gone, but the wound remained. Ebuka became quieter. He worked longer hours, and he trusted fewer people. At social gatherings, he watched every smile as though searching for the price hidden behind it. Chioma saw what betrayal was doing to him. One evening, they sat together in her hibiscus garden. You saved my company, Ebuka said. I wanted to save your heart. It may take longer. It will heal. How can I know why anyone stays around me? You watch how they behave when staying becomes inconvenient. Ebuka looked at her. What are you suggesting? One final test. He laughed bitterly. No more disguises. You will not need one. Chioma explained the plan. At first, Ebuka refused, but 2 days later, a longtime friend called and casually asked whether Stella's accusations about financial irregularities were true. Another friend requested repayment of a favor Ebuka had never owed. The rumors had already begun. Ebuka returned to his mother. Let's do it. Together with 2 lawyers and Kelechi, who knew only that a confidential restructuring was underway, they created the appearance of disaster. A false report suggested that Ebuka's company was under investigation. Investors were said to have withdrawn, accounts were supposedly frozen, luxurious vehicles disappeared from the mansion, staff members were given paid leave and told that renovations were taking place. Ebuka moved into a modest apartment owned by one of his lawyers. The news spread quickly. Within 72 hours, people vanished. Friends stopped answering. Relatives claimed to be traveling. A business partner who once called Ebuka my brother sent a message asking him not to mention their relationship publicly until the investigation ended. Ebuka had expected abandonment, but he had not expected it to hurt. The modest apartment forced Ebuka to a life he had not experienced in years. There was no driver, no cook, no assistant organizing every detail of his day. On his second morning, he attempted to prepare eggs. He burnt them. The smoke alarm began to scream. A neighbor banged on his door. Are you trying to burn the building? I am cooking. The woman looked past him at the blackened frying pan. That is not cooking. Kelechi arrived moments later and found him waving a towel beneath the alarm. She burst into laughter. You find this amusing? Extremely. I was making breakfast. You were creating evidence. She opened the windows. What did the eggs do to you? I followed the instructions. Which instructions?
The internet. Kelechi examined the pan. The internet clearly hates you. She rolled up her sleeves and began preparing another meal. Ebuka watched her. You don't have to do that. I know. You've said that many times, and you still haven't understood it. She placed chopped onions into the pan. Some things are done because someone chooses to do them, not because they are required, not because they are paid, not because anyone is watching. Ebuka understood the message beneath her words. He leaned against the counter. What would you do if you had enough money to stop working? Kelechi smiled. Sleep for 1 week. After that, I would finish architecture school. You still want that? I don't know. That means yes. It may be too late. You are 28. Life does not become too late at 28. It becomes difficult. That is different. What would you build first? He asked. She paused. A center for children. What kind? A place where children from poor families can learn skills, computers, design, art, things their schools may not have. Ebuka watched the passion return to her face. You have thought about this for years. Why have you never told me? You were my boss. You never asked. The words stayed with him. For years, Kelechi had known everything about his dreams. He had never asked enough about hers. That afternoon, they went to the market together. Ebuka wore a cap pulled low over his face. Kelechi carried a shopping list. You know people may recognize me, he said. Then try not to look like a billionaire. How does a billionaire look? Confused. He frowned. I am not confused. You have been standing in front of tomatoes for 5 minutes. I am comparing them. They are tomatoes. They have different sizes. Kelechi laughed. A trader called out to them, Madam, your husband is too serious. Kelechi immediately replied, He is not my husband. The trader shook her head. Not yet. Ebuka looked at Kelechi. She refused to meet her eyes. At another store, a woman recognized him. Are you not that rich man from television? Ebuka froze. Kelechi stepped in quickly. No, Mama, he only resembles him. The woman looked him over. That rich man is finer. Kelechi struggled not to laugh until they walked away. Ebuka stared at her. You enjoyed that very much. You could have defended me. I defended your identity, not your face. You cannot have everything. For the first time in weeks, Ebuka forgot about betrayal. He forgot about the company. He forgot about who had left. He simply walked beside Kelechi, carrying groceries and laughing in the afternoon sun. Kelechi returned the following day, and the day after that. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes she brought company documents she believed could help Ebuka rebuild, and sometimes she simply sat with him. Their relationship changed slowly. Without the office between them, Ebuka began seeing the woman he had overlooked for years. Kelechi loved old music and terrible action films. She hated coffee, but she drank it during meetings because everyone assumed secretaries should drink it. She once wanted to become an architect, but she abandoned the dream when her younger brother needed school fees. One rainy evening, the electricity went out. They sat beside the window while rain struck the glass. Are you afraid? Ebuka asked. Of darkness? Of what happens next? Kelechi thought for a moment. I am afraid you will convince yourself that everything you built was meaningless. It disappeared in days. The company disappeared. You didn't. You sound like my mother. She is a wise woman. Ebuka also disguised herself as a maid and infiltrated my house. Kelechi laughed. That part was slightly unhinged. Ebuka laughed too.
It was the first genuine laughter Chioma had heard from him since Stella left. Chioma stood outside the apartment door with the covered plates in her hands. When she heard them laughing, she quietly turned around and left. Some moments did not need a mother's supervision. One evening, Ebuka became ill. It began with a headache. By midnight, he was feverish and shivering beneath a blanket. He refused to call anyone. But Kelechi noticed that his messages no longer made sense. She drove to the apartment. When he opened the door, he could barely stand. "Why didn't you tell me you were sick? It is only a fever. You look like you are negotiating with death." "I am fine." He swayed. Kelechi caught his arm. "Yes, very fine." She helped him to the sofa. Then she called a doctor. Ebuka protested. "You don't need to create drama. You nearly fell on me. I was tired." "You are always tired when you are refusing help." The doctor confirmed that Ebuka had malaria and severe exhaustion. He prescribed medication and ordered him to rest. After the doctor left, Kelechi prepared soup. Ebuka watched her from the sofa. "You should go home." "I will." "When?" "When your fever comes down." "It is late. I know how to read time." He smiled weakly. "Kelechi, what? Why are you doing this?" She stopped stirring the soup. "Because you are sick." "Other people know I am sick. Then ask them why they are not here." The words silenced him. Kelechi brought the medicine and sat beside him. "Take this. I hate tablets. You own a technology company and fear small tablets? They taste terrible. You are behaving like a child." "My mother usually crushes them." Kelechi stared. "You are 32 years old and ill." She laughed despite herself. "Take the medicine." Ebuka swallowed it reluctantly. Later, he fell asleep with his head against the sofa. Kelechi covered him with a blanket. In his sleep, he whispered his mother's name. Then he said something else. "Kelechi, don't leave." She went still. Ebuka's eyes remained closed. Kelechi sat beside him until morning. When he woke, she was asleep in a chair, her head resting against the wall. Sunlight touched her face. Ebuka watched her quietly. For years, beautiful women had entered his life wearing expensive clothes and carefully chosen perfume. Yet none had ever looked as beautiful to him as Kelechi did in that moment. Exhausted, uncomfortable, still present. He reached for a blanket and placed it over her. Kelechi opened her eyes. "You are awake?" "Yes." "How do you feel?" "Better." She touched his forehead to check his temperature. The closeness made both of them pause. Her hand remained against his skin. Ebuka looked into her eyes. For one dangerous second, he wanted to kiss her. Kelechi seemed to understand. She slowly removed her hand. "You should eat." He nodded. "Yes." The moment passed, but neither of them forgot it. As their closeness grew, Ebuka began depending on Kelechi in ways that frightened him. He looked forward to her visits. He noticed when she changed her hairstyle. He remembered how she liked her tea. When she arrived late, the apartment felt strangely empty. Yet he was afraid. What if his feelings were simply gratitude? What if he was reaching for Kelechi because Stella had wounded him? And what if telling Kelechi the truth about the fake collapse destroyed the one honest relationship he had left? Chioma noticed his confusion. One afternoon, she visited him alone. "You are in love with her," she said. Ebuka nearly dropped his cup. "Mommy, I did not ask a question. It is too soon. Love does not check calendars. I do not know whether I can trust my judgment. Then do not rush, but do not punish Kelechi for Stella's sins. I am not. You watch her as though you are waiting for her to transform." Ebuka looked down. "I keep wondering when she will ask for something. And has she? No. Then perhaps you should ask yourself what you have given her." "I have given her a job." "That is not what I mean." Ebuka was quiet. "She has given you time, food, loyalty, honesty, peace. What have you given her besides salary and suspicion?" The question struck him. "I care about her."
Have you told her? No. Then she cannot live inside what you refuse to say. That evening, Ebuka asked Kelechi to sit with him on the balcony. The city lights glowed in the distance. Do you regret staying? No. Even with everything people are saying, people have always talked. That is not an answer. Kelechi looked at him. I regret that you had to lose so much before learning who mattered. Ebuka's chest tightened. Did I matter to you before? She looked away. You were my employer. That was not my question. Kelechi stood. I should go. He gently caught her hand. She froze. Kelechi, please. Why are you afraid? She turned. Because you are hurt. And hurt people sometimes hold on to whoever is close. Then when they recover, they realize it was not love. Ebuka released her hand. I would never use you. You may not mean to. Kelechi picked up her bag. I care about you too much to become medicine for another woman's damage. After she left, Ebuka understood that Kelechi's distance was not rejection. It was self-respect. And it made him love her even more. A week later, Kelechi arrived carrying an envelope. What is that? Ebuka asked. My resignation. His expression fell. You accepted another job? No. Then why are you resigning? Because if your company returns, I do not want you to think I stayed because I was waiting for my position. Kelechi, I am not leaving you. She sat opposite him. I am separating my job from what I am about to say. Ebuka's heartbeat changed. She twisted her fingers together. I cared about you before any of this happened. He said nothing. I admired the way you treated people. I admired how you spoke about your mother. And I admired that you remembered hunger even after becoming wealthy. Her voice trembled. But I also saw how lonely you were. Everyone wanted something from you. So you started believing being needed was the same thing as being loved. Ebuka looked down. When the company collapsed, I was afraid for you. Not because of the money, but because I knew you would blame yourself. She wiped a tear quickly. I stayed because leaving you alone felt like a betrayal I couldn't live with. Ebuka moved closer. What if I never recover? Then we will eat roasted plantain and complain about electricity bills. He smiled through tears. You keep saying we. This time I mean it. Ebuka took her hand. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then guilt entered his face. There's something I need to tell you. Kelechi's smile disappeared. What? The company did not collapse. She slowly pulled her hand away. What do you mean? The investigation was staged. You lied to me? My mother and I needed to know who would stay. You tested me. It was not originally about you, but you became part of it. Yes. Kelechi stood. Kelechi, please. I shared things with you because I believed you were broken. I was broken, but not broke. You allowed me to use my savings to feed you. I tried to stop you. You did a terrible job. I am sorry. Kelechi picked up her handbag. My kindness was real, Ebuka. You had no right to turn it into an examination. She walked towards the door. You said you were not leaving me. Kelechi stopped. I said it before discovering you were still hiding behind your money, even while pretending it was gone. Then the door closed. Ebuka remained standing in the middle of the apartment. For once, Chioma's test had revealed something she had not intended. True love could survive poverty, but it could not survive without trust. The 5 days without Kelechi felt longer than the weeks after Stella left. Ebuka went to the office. He attended meetings. He signed documents, but everything felt empty. On the second day, he opened a drawer and found the sketch Kelechi had made years earlier, the community center. He had kept it without realizing why. He placed it on his desk and stared at the building she had once dreamed of creating. His mother entered quietly. You hurt her. I know. Do you understand how? I lied. That is part of it. What else? Chioma sat opposite him. You made her love prove itself while your own love remained protected. Ebuka looked at her. She risked humiliation, career damage, her savings, and her heart. What did you risk? He had no answer.
Chioma continued. You always had the company. You always had your accounts. You always knew you could return to your mansion. Kelechi believed everything was truly gone. She stood beside you without security, but you stood beside her while holding the truth behind your back. Ebuka closed his eyes. I was afraid. So was she. The difference is that she was honest about what she gave you. Kelechi avoided Ebuka for 5 days. He sent messages, but she did not reply. He went to her apartment. She refused to open the door. Finally, Chioma visited her. Kelechi allowed her inside, but remained distant. I suppose you have come to explain why deceiving people is an act of love, Kelechi said. No. Chioma sat down. I came to apologize. Kelechi looked surprised. The idea was mine. He agreed. Yes, because my son trusts me, sometimes too much. Kelechi folded her arms. You watched from afar. I did. You let me worry about him. Yes. You allowed me to believe he had lost everything. Yes. Why? Chioma looked down. Fear. Of what? Of dying one day and leaving him surrounded by people who only love his name. Kelechi's expression softened slightly, but only slightly. That does not excuse it. No. Chioma met her eyes. I spent his entire life protecting him. When he was a child, I protected him from hunger. When he became wealthy, I protected him from people. I became so used to standing between him and pain that I forgot pain is sometimes how adults learn to love properly. Kelechi sat opposite her. He hurts me. I know. I feel foolish. You are not foolish. You were the only one who behaved with honor when you believed there was nothing to gain. That is why it hurts. My love became evidence in somebody else's test. Chioma nodded. Then do not forgive him because I ask you. Make him earn it. That evening, Ebuka visited Kelechi's mother. Kelechi was not there. Her mother, Mrs. Namani, invited him inside. I know who you are, she said. I assumed. You are the man who made my daughter cry. Ebuka lowered his head. Yes, ma. Sit down. He obeyed. Mrs. Namani watched him carefully. My daughter has admired you for years. Ebuka looked up. She never told me. She barely told herself. She said you worked hard. She said you respected your mother. She said you were different from other wealthy men. Mrs. Namani leaned closer. Do you know how painful it is to discover that the person you trusted has been measuring your love? I do now. No. You understand guilt. That is not the same thing as understanding her pain. Ebuka accepted the correction. What should I do? Why are you asking me? Because I love her. Mrs. Namani's expression softened slightly. Then, stop trying to solve her like one of your business problems. Do not arrive with a grand strategy. Do not buy her forgiveness. Do not promise a perfect future. Tell her the truth, then allow her to decide whether your truth is enough. Ebuka nodded. Before he left, Mrs. Namani called after him. And young man, yes ma, and if you hurt her again, your billions will not protect me from you. For the first time in days, Ebuka smiled. I understand. Ebuka did not try to impress Kelechi with flowers, jewelry, or expensive gestures. He knew those things would only prove that he had learnt nothing. Instead, he gave her space. Then he wrote a letter. In the letter, Ebuka admitted that he had spent years using wealth to protect himself from rejection. He admitted that staging the collapse allowed him to control the pain rather than risk encountering it unexpectedly. And he admitted that Kelechi had shown him love while he answered her honesty with manipulation. At the end of the letter, Ebuka wrote, You passed a test you never deserved to take. I failed one I did not know I was taking. Kelechi read the letter 3 times. She did not immediately return, but she responded. Slowly, they began again. The first time Kelechi agreed to see him, they met at a small restaurant near her home. Ebuka arrived early. He stood when she entered. Kelechi sat opposite him. You have 30 minutes. I'm grateful for 10. She looked unimpressed. Ebuka placed no gifts on the table. There were no flowers, only the letter he had already sent. I came to listen, he said. Kelechi folded her hands. Then listen. She told him how afraid she was when she heard the company had collapsed. She explained that she had secretly contacted several investors, attempting to arrange meetings for him. She had considered selling the small piece of land her father left the family. Ebuka's face changed. You were going to sell your land? She did not, but I considered it. Why? Because I thought you might lose everything. Her voice tightened. And all that time you knew you were safe? Ebuka's eyes filled with regret. I am sorry. You keep saying that because it is true. Sorry does not restore trust. I know. Then what will? Time, consistency, and whatever boundaries you need. Kelechi studied him. You have thought about this every hour since you left. She looked down at the menu. Do you love me? Ebuka did not hesitate. Yes. Or do you love what I did for you? I loved your kindness before the collapse. I noticed your courage long before Stella left. I loved the way you spoke the truth when everyone else agreed with me. And I think I began loving you the day I saw your drawing. Kelechi looked up. My drawing? The community center. You kept it. Yes. Why? I didn't know then. I know now. For the first time since sitting down, Kelechi's expression softened. But she did not immediately forgive him. They began with friendship. Ebuka attended her younger brother's graduation. Kelechi visited Chioma without him. They spoke on the phone, sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes into midnight. One evening, Kelechi took Ebuka to the roadside where her mother once sold food. This is where I grew up, she said. Ebuka looked around. The area was noisy and crowded. You never brought Stella here? Kelechi asked. No. Why? I don't think she would have come. Would you have asked? Ebuka considered the question. No. Kelechi nodded. You loved the version of yourself she admired, not the version of yourself you came from. Ebuka looked at her. And you? I loved the boy who repaired a broken calculator because he believed everything could be fixed. Ebuka smiled. My mother told you that story. She tells many stories. They are my favorite ones. As they walked, rain began to fall. People rushed beneath shop coverings. Ebuka and Kelechi ran towards a small shelter. They stood close together, laughing and breathless. Kelechi looked at him. This feels familiar. The electricity is still on.
I mean the rain. Ebuka's smile faded. Rain used to frighten me. I know. My mother told you that too? Yes. He looked toward the dark clouds. It does not frighten me as much anymore. Why? Because now I know roofs can be rebuilt. Kelechi touched his hand. This time, when he leaned closer, she did not move away. Their first kiss was gentle, unhurried. It did not feel like the beginning of something sudden. It felt like the truth finally catching up with them. Months passed. Their relationship grew slowly. They went on ordinary dates, small restaurants, long walks, visits to Kelechi's mother, quiet evenings in Chioma's garden. Ebuka listened when Kelechi spoke, and Kelechi challenged him whenever he retreated behind authority. Before restoring the abandoned building, Ebuka took Kelechi to see it. The roof still leaked. The walls were damaged. Weeds had swallowed the entrance. Kelechi stepped inside carefully. "This is where your mother stayed?" "Yes." "She was pregnant?" 4 months. Kelechi looked around. "How did she survive here?" "I don't know. She says she made a promise to me during a storm." Kelechi touched the cracked wall. "What do you want to do with the building?" "I want your opinion." "My opinion? You are the architect." "I am not an architect." "Not yet." Ebuka handed her a folder. Inside was an admission letter from a university architecture program. Kelechi stared at it. "What is this?" "I spoke to the school." "You spoke to them without asking me?" His face fell. "You are right. I should have asked." Kelechi continued reading. The program allowed flexible study for working adults. There was also a scholarship. She looked at him suspiciously. "Did you pay for this scholarship?" "No. The foundation did." "Which foundation?" Ebuka smiled nervously. "A foundation I may have created." Kelechi shook her head. "You do not learn slowly." "I am trying." She closed the folder. "I will accept only if the scholarship is available to other students too." "It is. And I will design this building because I choose to, not because I owe you." "You owe me nothing." Kelechi looked around again. "A shelter for young mothers. Yes, with classrooms, a health clinic, childcare, and training rooms," she added. Ebuka watched her imagination awaken. She walked through the ruined space, describing walls that did not yet exist. "Large windows here, so the rooms never feel like prisons. A garden at the back. Children need somewhere safe to play. A kitchen big enough for everyone to eat together." Ebuka smiled. Kelechi stopped. "What?" "You are beautiful when you are building something in your mind." She looked away, trying not to smile. For the next several months, they worked on the project together. Kelechi created the designs. Ebuka handled funding. Chioma visited the construction site every week. One afternoon, she stood beneath the new roof while rain began to fall. No water entered. Chioma lifted her face toward the sound. Kelechi approached her. "Mommy, are you all right?" Chioma touched one of the pillars. "The last time I stood here during rain, I thought my life was over." Kelechi held her hand. "And now," Chioma looked around at the completed rooms. "Now, I know some places are not meant to remain reminders of pain. Sometimes they become proof that pain did not win." The proposal did not happen inside a mansion filled with candles. It happened beneath the new roof of the building where Chioma had once promised her unborn son a better life. A plaque near the entrance read, "Chioma's home. No mother should face the road alone." Chioma covered her mouth. "Ebuka," he embraced her. "You gave me a future here. Now this place will give one to others." Kelechi wiped tears from her face. Ebuka turned toward her. "I brought you here because everything I am began with a promise my mother made when she had nothing." He took Kelechi's hands. "I cannot promise that I will never make mistakes. I already have." Kelechi smiled through her tears. "I noticed. But I promise I will never again test your love instead of trusting it." Ebuka lowered himself to one knee. "I don't want you as my secretary. I don't want you as the woman who stayed when the money disappeared. I want you as my equal, my closest friend, and the person who reminds me who I am whenever fear makes me forget. He opened the ring box. Kelechi, will you marry me? She looked at Chioma. Chioma was openly crying. Then Kelechi turned back to Ebuka. Yes. Ebuka rose and embraced her. Chioma wrapped her arms around both of them, and for the first time in years, she felt no need to watch the door. Their wedding was held in Chioma's hibiscus garden. There were no newspaper exclusives, no socialites trying to appear in photographs, and no extravagant performance designed for strangers. There was only family, genuine friends, and the household workers who had witnessed the entire journey. Rita attended with her healthy son. Mrs. Nwosu sat near the front, proudly telling anyone who would listen that the entire rescue was impossible without her staffing agency. Chioma wore a richly embroidered wrapper and held her head high. No scarf, no false name, no disguise. When Kelechi began walking down the aisle, Ebuka looked first at her. Then he looked at his mother. And for a moment, he saw every version of Chioma at once. The frightened teenage girl cast into the road. The woman selling roasted corn with a baby tied to her back. The mother pretending she had eaten. The maid standing unseen in his hallway. And the proud woman now watching him marry someone who loved his humanity before touching his wealth. Marriage did not turn Ebuka and Kelechi into perfect people. They still disagreed. Kelechi disliked how easily Ebuka tried to solve emotional problems with money. Ebuka disliked how Kelechi sometimes carried everyone's burdens without asking for help. For the first year of marriage, Kelechi struggled to balance architecture school, work, and the foundation. One evening, Ebuka found her asleep at the dining table, surrounded by drawings. He gently woke her. You cannot continue like this. I have a presentation tomorrow. You also worked all day. I'm fine. You sound like me when I had malaria. Kelechi rubbed her eyes. I need to finish. Ebuka began to gather her papers. What are you doing? I'm taking you to bed. You are not a child. I know. You are my wife, and you have not slept properly for 4 days. Kelechi pulled the papers back. I do not need you to control me. Ebuka stopped. The word struck him. I am not trying to control you. That is how it feels. Silence filled the room. In the past, Ebuka might have become defensive. Instead, he sat down. Tell me what you need. Kelechi looked at him. I need you to believe I can do difficult things. I do, but I also need you to notice when I am tired without deciding everything for me. Ebuka nodded. What can I take from your schedule? She thought for a moment. The foundation meeting tomorrow. I can handle it. And breakfast. You want me to cook? Kelechi smiled. On second thought, I will handle breakfast. Ebuka laughed. They learned each other slowly, not through tests, through conversations. Chioma also had to learn a new way of loving her son. For years, she had believed protection meant watching everything. But after the wedding, she forced herself to step back. When Ebuka and Kelechi had disagreements, Chioma did not interfere.
Even when Ebuka called her, sounding frustrated, she refused to take sides. Chioma told him once, "She is your wife. Talk to her. I am talking to you, and I am telling you to talk to her. Mommy, whose side are you on? The side of your marriage." Kelechi became pregnant 2 years after the wedding. When she told Ebuka, he stared at the pregnancy test as if it were a legal document he could not understand. "Are you sure?" Kelechi laughed. "That is why I showed you the test." "We are having a baby?" "Yes." Ebuka sat down. Then he began crying. Kelechi's smile disappeared. "What is wrong?" "Nothing." "You are crying." "I am happy." She sat beside him. Ebuka placed one hand against her stomach. "My mother was alone when she had me." "You will not be alone," he whispered. "I know." "No, you do not understand. I will attend every appointment. I will wake up every night. I will change nappies." Kelechi laughed. "You are making campaign promises?" "I am serious." "I know." She kissed his forehead. "You will be a good father." "How can you be sure?" "Because you are already afraid of failing. Bad fathers rarely worry about that." Their daughter was born on a rainy night. As thunder shook the hospital windows, Ebuka held Kelechi's hand. Chioma waited outside the delivery room praying. When the nurse finally emerged carrying the baby, Ebuka looked at his mother. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, Chioma began to cry. Ebuka placed the child in her arms. "Mommy, meet Amara." Chioma looked down at her granddaughter. The baby opened her eyes. "She is beautiful. We named her Amara because she is grace." Kelechi smiled weakly from the bed. "And because this family has received more grace than it deserves." Years later, Chioma sat beneath the hibiscus trees with Amara and her younger brother. The children listened as she told them stories. Not of billion-naira companies, not of mansions, not of newspaper headlines. She told them about a leaking roof, a plate of food divided into 2 portions, a broken calculator, and a frightened young mother who made a promise in the rain. "Grandma," Amara asked, "were you really a maid in Daddy's house?" Chioma laughed. "For a short time." "Did he not know you?" "He walked past me." Amara gasped. "Daddy!" Ebuka, sitting nearby, raised both hands. "I have apologized many times." Kelechi smiled. "And your grandmother has reminded him many times." Chioma looked at her family. Ebuka was laughing. Kelechi leaned against him. The children argued over who would sit closest to their grandmother. For years, Chioma had believed her greatest achievement was raising a successful son. But success was not the company. It was not the mansion. It was not the wealth. It was the man Ebuka became after losing his certainty. The husband who learned that love could not be tested without consequence. The father who understood sacrifice. And the son who never became too important to rest his head on his mother's shoulder. As evening settled over the garden, Amara pointed toward the house. "Grandma, did Daddy really buy you this place?" "Yes." "Because the old roof leaked?" "Yes." Amara thought about it. "Then Daddy kept his promise." Chioma looked at Ebuka. He smiled at her. "Yes," she whispered. "He kept his promise." But deep inside, Chioma knew the promise had become larger than either of them imagined. Ebuka had not only given her a roof that did not leak, he had given rejected mothers a home. He had given Kelechi the freedom to return to her dream. He had given his children a family built not on money, but on truth. And Chioma had finally received something she never believed life would give her. Rest. She no longer needed to inspect every smile. She no longer needed to stand between her son and every danger. She no longer needed to become invisible to uncover the truth. She could simply sit beneath the hibiscus branches and watch the people she loved. Because money built the mansion, sacrifice built the man, trust built the marriage, and love transformed every broken place into a home.
This is Tales by Sombaby. Thank you all so much for watching. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, do us well to subscribe and put on your notification button. Thank you all so much. See you all next time. Bye bye.